Welcome to the show. I'm thrilled to have with me today an old friend, Alison Ball. Alison, hello to you.
Hi, Rob. It's so exciting to be on your show again.
It is
It's been
great to
it's
have
been a
you
couple
on.
of years,
It
hasn't it?
has, and you're in a new place right now. We're going to talk about that today. But just for people that haven't come across you, would you just tell us a bit about your background and your areas of expertise?
Yeah, oh, happy to. So when I think about my career, really, it's all about just helping accountants and bookkeepers be more successful. I historically was an accountant or bookkeeper, not a CPA, and then spent 15 years at Intuit in the the accountant segment, ultimately building their global influencer strategy. And then a few months ago, Intuit had a fairly big layoff, and unfortunately, my position was affected. And now I'm at Liscio, and I'm leading the marketing director there. And what's really cool about that is that I still get to keep help accountants and bookkeepers be more successful.
Yeah. Well, I was looking back. You've been on the show before, and
Yeah.
you were with us, and we talked about growth and branding strategies
hmm
for top accounting firms. Now, since then, the world has turned on its head and things are changing. How do you feel? Well, first, what kind of shape do you feel the accounting profession is in right now?
Oh my gosh. So it's such a good profession to be in for many, many reasons.
Right.
Whether you're an accountant, a bookkeeper, or tax only, or you're an advisor, you're a consultant, you're a software, geek. There are so many roles that accountants and bookkeepers play now, and they're really vital. Um, so, gosh, where do I even start? Um, there's an interesting stat in the United States that in the year 2020, so in other words, the year we're sitting in, 75% of the CPAs that are members of the AICPA, and they have like a million plus,
Hmm.
they're over the age of retirement. So they're
Wow.
65 or older. So there's going to be this, not only is there a huge need for the accountants and bookkeeper services and skills today now, there's also going to be a an exodus of retiring. Now, I'm sure people will work a bit longer than 65, so we've got a little bit of a buffer,
Yeah.
but definitely in the US, there's going to be a shortage of accountants. So this is a great career to go into if
Hmm.
if you're 18 or 19 and listening to this. And if you're already in the industry, then you're busy.
Yeah.
Your services are in demand.
So you left Intuit. We know about that, but you decided to stay in the accounting space, didn't you?
Yeah. Um, I absolutely love the challenges, the daily challenges that accountants and bookkeepers face. Not that I like that they have challenges. That's not the case. What I'm fascinated with is the type of challenges that they have. How do they respond to their clients? How do they help their clients build their businesses? What communication methods are they using? How are they marketing their firms? These are all, to me, just very fascinating challenges. And so, one of the sort of among all the opportunities that I had when I was between being let go at Intuit and then, ultimately joining Liscio, Liscio stood out because it allowed me to work on a new category of helping solution. It's an
Okay.
app and it's one that helps accounting firms provide a better client experience and increase the loyalty of their clients and the engagement, and then also significantly improve operational efficiency for staff.
Hmm.
So it's a fascinating problem. We have this saying at Intuit, fall in love with the problem, not the solution.
Right.
And so joining Liscio has allowed me to go really deep on a very real challenge that accountants and bookkeepers have, and that's managing, providing a good client experience while at the same time taking care of the security and the um, task tracking and all of the bits and bobs that goes with actually doing the work.
Hmm. How do you feel accountants have coped with what's going on with the pandemic? Because we think of accountant CPAs as super smart, but not particularly agile. And there's a lot of change going on, a lot of disruption, unpredictability, uncertainty. You're in touch with a lot of accountants across
Yeah.
North America. How do you feel they've responded?
Well, I think overall, you can hear me just taking a big deep breath. I bet you most people are. Well, it's been a challenging year. And for some it's been really tough.
Yeah.
So let's pretend that you aren't ill with the pandemic, or let's pretend that you're healthy, okay,
Okay.
and you're still able to work. So what we've seen in the U.S. is, and Canada, actually, North America, we've seen entire industries. So, for example, hospitality, restaurants, bars, those types of things,
Yeah.
they've been really hit hard during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So if you think about the accountants and bookkeepers that support them, their businesses have been affected both on a financial level and also on an emotional level, because their clients are hurting, right?
Mhm.
There's still great work for them to do, helping them with. I wrote an article months ago, a long form LinkedIn, about all the things that accountants and bookkeepers could do to help their clients sell in different ways.
Okay.
So I think there's a creativity, and there's a knowledge that accountants and bookkeepers have that they can use for helping their clients sell in different ways, uncover new revenue lines, make better use of their cash. So, but there's also a flip side to this. So there's other industries, like, for example, delivery services, home grocery
Mm.
services, internet businesses, that have actually seen a huge increase in business. So it's kind of like, depending on the industry that our listeners, I'm assuming most of them are accountants and bookkeepers, but assuming, whatever industry they support, if they have a, and I have a question to ask you. Do you say niche or niche?
We say niche.
Niche. Okay, because I have so many countries in my head I can never remember, so I'll say niche. So depending on the niche that the listeners support, they're either dealing with clients that are in crisis, in which case they got to be very creative
Yeah.
and help them sell in new ways, or they're dealing with clients whose businesses are booming, in which case they're trying to keep up.
Yeah.
They're trying to. So, but assuming that a firm has more than one type of client that they serve, there are some um, common threads, if you will, that emerge if you look at firms that are doing well versus firms that are struggling. So the thriving firms have taken full advantage of technology.
Sure.
And everyone has had to provide client services in a remote fashion, right? We have not been able to go into our offices. And I think the UK is just entering a new lockdown, haven't they? Is it a
Yes.
new?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So if a firm, and I'm imagining most people have sorted this out by now, but originally in the pandemic, those firms that had everything on their office-based servers and that required staff to come in and work in the office, and they didn't have a way for them to work from home, those firms had to rapidly pivot. They would be in more pain, and they probably, as I said, have sorted it out now. But at the time, during the beginning of the let's call it pandemic wave one,
Yeah.
they really had to pivot. And then if you compare to companies who offered cloud-based services before, well, their transition was much easier.
Mm.
And then I think there's one more thing that maybe differentiates successful firms from ones that might still be struggling, and that's the level of transparency that's built into their systems across their staff. And so when you're working at home, or let's not even say at home, when you're working remotely and you're not able to just sort of walk down the hall and talk to your staff person, or stand up and talk over the cubicle,
Mm.
um, if you're relying on email as your primary way of communicating with clients, this is creating a lot of friction. It's a lot of wasted time because the information is siloed. And what's happening is, when you don't think about it in an accounting firm or a bookkeeping firm, but you tend to have several people working on the same client, right? Somebody might handle the general ledger, somebody
Yeah.
might handle the bank rec. They might do different functions, right? And so the challenge is, if you're working remotely, you can't walk to the office or cubicle next door and ask the other staff person where a document is or what the status of something is. So email right now is my biggest thing that I'm looking into as a challenge, because I think it's just creating so much wasted time and friction, and it's not a great way to communicate, with people,
Well, we know for sure that
with
email,
clients.
yeah, we know for sure that email for some time has been a real drain on productivity, hasn't it?
Mhm.
Because
Oh,
most email is not useful at all.
yeah.
And it's certainly not good for the customer client experience.
It can be very detrimental, because if you think about it, they've got, well, I just remember to do it. I don't know how many emails do you get in a day, Rob? How many do you get?
Well, probably not as many as you got it into it, but a fair amount.
I used to get easily 400 a day.
That's ridiculous.
And you can't handle 400 a day. And
No.
B, how do you cut the signal through? How do you find the signal in the noise, right?
Yeah.
So you got to think about like clients. You're like, okay, so pretend I'm an accounting firm and I'm getting all these emails, and then I'm a client. And well, the client's getting all these emails too, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the main challenge is there's three challenges really. It's the volume.
Right.
You just get too much, right? There's this transparency across staff members. I've already answered that a little bit. I addressed it a little bit in our former question, but to achieve transparency, if you're using email, what do? You send more email.
You
You
CC more
CC
people
and
in, don't
BC,
you?
right? It's crazy. And then the other thing is findability and tracking.
Yeah.
And so email just, if a huge volume of email it makes it hard to find things. You can't easily track an email task, and it makes a terrible to-do list. And so, so this is where actually some accounting firms really do have an edge, and they're using these better systems to communicate with clients. And it can create not only a better experience to the client, but also increase this transparency and trackability. And at Liscio, we've actually trademarked this term. We call it Client Experience 2.0.
Okay.
And the accounting firms that have adopted this method of working are very productive. Their clients are really happy. Their firms there's this feeling of that they report. They're just very relaxed. They're like, and they just would never go back to the old way because most people don't think that they have a problem with email. They're like, oh, it works. Well, it doesn't.
Well, we'll dip into Client Experience 2.0 in a moment, but how has the remote world that we are in now with the pandemic changed the client experience?
I think I would like to say that for most firms, as long as you're a tech forward firm, right? If you're a traditional old school firm, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
what is your
because
client?
accountants and CPAs will say to you, we like being face to face with our clients. We've got to eyeball them. We've got to shake their hand. We've got to be in their offices and live in their world.
Yeah.
But you can't do that right now, can you?
It's hard to do. Yeah, very, very hard to do. I mean, but you and I are face to face right now.
Yeah.
And you're in the UK and I'm in California. So I think if you embrace the technology and you keep in touch with your clients, and then I think there's this issue of the systems that you make them use that I think impacts the client experience more than whether you're face to face with them.
So if we're going to talk about Client Experience 2.0, just define for us Client Experience 1.0.
Yeah, so as I'm thinking this through, I think there's really three experiences.
Okay, so we're in 3.0 now.
No. There's
Okay.
1.0,
Right.
1.5.
Okay. You've
And
got out of that one
2.0.
nicely.
Yeah, well, 1.0 is that kind of traditional firm that you think of. And a lot of the people that are going to be listening to your podcast today, Rob, worked in those firms and didn't like it.
Sure.
And there's very few ways for clients to get in touch with you if you're a 1.0 firm. And if you really think about it, there's very few ways. There's email, there's the phone, there's snail mail, and there's in person.
Okay.
Right. It's really very few ways. And those are the types of firms that tend to, have strict deadlines and you provide your documents and then you get your financials, 60 days later and whatever. Right. So that's 1.0. 1.5 is the tech forward firm that wants to solve the issues of 1.0. But what happened was they went too far the other way. They adopted too many solutions. And so now the clients that what's happening is clients have too many ways to get in touch with. And so that you have a problem when you've got to search through multiple places for where did that client send that document, or your clients are texting you, or they're sending. And what's really funny is when a client wants to text you and send you a document, they take a photo of the document.
Yeah.
And what do you do, right? What do you do with a photo of a document? I mean, really, like, think that through. How do you actually get that from your phone onto your computer? I think you email it to yourself, and then you go and you print it out, and then it's crazy, right? So that's 1.5. And then 2.0, just uses a better system to control, to sort of corral and organize and categorize and control the client communications so that the client has one place. And
Okay.
it's an app. It's we call it, the Liscio app does give client experience 2.0, and everything's in one place. It's secure. It's not a clunky portal that clients can't even log into, right? I mean, I actually dread, I'm not going to mention the firm because I really like them as people and the service they provide. But my one big bugaboo with my tax firm is that they have this horrible portal
Mm,
and I can never use it.
yeah.
Like, for whatever reason, my password is expired or it doesn't recognize my username or whatever, and I always have to call them and they have to reset it, and it's just it's a pain for me and it's a pain for them. And then when I go and upload the documents, I'm not actually sure did they get uploaded? Like, are they there?
Mm.
Like, so I can't even see what I've uploaded. So there's these friction points, that but in general, a 2.0 firm is choosing systems that are based on the client's experience,
So is
right?
it
So either
obvious for a firm to know what level of client experience they're offering?
I think you can ask yourself a number of questions. So interestingly enough, I've got an ebook that I'll give you, Rob, that takes you through the 5 questions you should
Wow.
ask.
Okay.
It's a discussion guide. It's not a salesy thing or anything like that. It's just
Sure.
designed to take people through. And this is the perfect time of year to do it in November because you're looking ahead to your new year,
Yeah.
right? Um, but if you want to get in your mind what client experiences 2.0 is in a different industry, think about think about the comparison, the story I just told about the portal. That's a really horrible experience.
Hmm.
It's really awful. Okay. It's designed so that documents are sent securely, which I highly appreciate. Security is important, but it's a horrible experience. Compare that to an online banking app.
Yes.
How delightful is that?
They're super slick now, aren't they?
And it's been the quietest revolution ever. They've just been slowly, slowly, slowly doing it. The first thing I remember, way back, probably maybe was it 2009, maybe
Mm.
you could bank online, which was a big deal. You could go to your computer and log in and you could see your accounts and move things around and everything. And that was really good. But now you do it on your phone and you can even deposit a check, you can move money, you can pay bills, you can ask questions, you can put comment, you can talk to somebody via the app, right? They'll get back to you,
Mm.
raise an issue. Um, and so it's would you ever consider going back to the old days when you had to stand in line during business hours to do all these things? But the interesting thing is you still can.
Mm.
So it's an and. You still can go to the bank if you want to. You still can go to the ATM if you want to deposit a check that way if you don't want to take a picture of it. And I know in the UK people don't get many checks, so but in the US we do still.
Yeah.
And so depositing a check, right? Um, but you still can go and talk to a banker. You still can go to an ATM. So I think of client experience 2.0 as being offering the client a choice and making sure that all of those choices are delightful.
And Liscio are trying to be that app, that interface that gives almost that banking experience and that choice to the client.
Yeah, we're already there. It's there. It's done. And that was the reason why when I and my delight, my main delight moment of knowing I had joined the right company was when Chris, this is a funny little side story, Rob. So I interviewed with all these different companies completely remote.
Right.
I got my job completely remote. I have not met anyone in person in my company. Isn't that hilarious?
It is.
And I've now been working there 9 weeks.
Sign of the times, though, Alison.
Crazy, huh?
Mm.
But so that was the other issue is I had to send my employment documents, right? And being, I have a British passport and a Canadian passport, and I have a green card, and that's my what
We
allows me to
get
work.
we get how conflicted you are with your
Yeah, there you go. I'm like in all
identity.
all different countries. But I had to send Chris my green card and I was like, "Oh, how am I going to send that? I don't want to How am I going to send that?" And he said, "Oh, well, you just do it on the app." And so I signed up for
Boom.
Liscio. He invited me into his firm
Yeah.
and and I sent it. It was really delightful. Yeah.
So what do firms need to do to improve the experience their clients are getting if they're not at 2.0 right now?
Yeah, I think so. We've covered a little bit about emails and portals, and I've got this ebook that we can link to when you
Sure.
publish the podcast that can kind of guide the discovery process. Um, but basically, there's sort of a series of questions that you should ask to sort of establish your client experience level, because there might be some things that you're doing really, really well, and then there's other things that you need to improve. So once you know the steps, and the good news is they're not difficult or expensive to do, then the technology can help, right? And
Right.
so, um, but really, overall, at a high level, it's a mindset combined with using great technology. And the mindset is we choose solutions at our firm that are built with the client in mind. In other words, we don't focus necessarily on the firm experience first. And that's the challenge, is that that's the challenge that accounting firms do, is that they all of the solutions that are shown to them from the firm experience.
Hmm.
So ideally, you want one that's good for both.
Got it.
Yeah.
And
And then I think to see if a solution is client friendly, there's a really good litmus test. Ask your mom or your grandmother to see if they could use it.
perfect.
And if they can,
Yeah.
great, go for it. If they cannot, then you should dump it and find a better solution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and email. You've got to look into a better solution than email to communicate with a client. It's just a beast.
Mm.
And I don't think it offers a good client or a good staff experience.
And do clients know what good experience is? You talked about this portal that's clunky. You know when something's not working, but is it important too that accounting firms educate their clients that they are getting a great experience?
Yeah, yeah, there's a number of questions that you can ask. It's so funny. We've been having such a fun time with some of the marketing things that we've created this package. I think most companies, well, maybe not. I'm just trying to think whether QuickBooks has this for their clients, but we're creating for our accounting firm clients. In other words, for Liscio's clients, we're creating a series of social ads that they can send out. And it's well, the first one is, do you love your accountant's portal? If not, call us,
Right.
right? Those kinds of things, right? Um, does your client answer your questions within 10 minutes?
That
Well,
almost sounds like the campaign that PC
probably not.
suffered from against the Mac. Do you remember those?
Yes, yes. And that is an example of ease. At the time, the PC was very difficult to use. If you
Yeah.
remember, it was very difficult to use because Windows hadn't even launched,
Mm.
right? It was very difficult.
Yeah.
And I was Mac. I was 100% Mac there because I was like, well, I can figure this out, but I don't know what all these commands I have to type into.
Mm.
I never learned DOS.
From experience of accounting clients, though, Alison, there's a lot of clients can tell you what they don't want, but they
Hmm.
can't always tell you what they do want. So, in terms of great client service, they can't always articulate what that looks or feels like.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it helps to have a few examples of how easy it is to work with you,
Okay.
and you can kind of mention some of the friction points. So I'm thinking about like your website. So the first thing that people should do, and this is a to-do whether anybody, regardless of your client experience, you should every accountant and bookkeeper should do this. The first thing is to redo your messaging on your website so that it's not about we.
Yeah.
It should be about you. And I think, ironically, Rob, I think we talked about this in my last podcast with you. Is it should not be we.
Mm.
It should be, this is what you will get. This
Yeah.
is what your issues are. We understand your challenges. We understand your business, right? You. If you include some happy testimonials from clients, and then you can point out things, you don't have to be negative, right? But you can point out that, we have an amazing app that allows you to send documents to us, scan things on the go, and easily reach us when you need answers.
Yeah.
Um,
I've heard
it
it
should
described as
differentiate. Yeah.
I've heard it described as a VTY vocabulary, value to you vocabulary. Yeah, we
There
do
you go.
this, but the value to you is X, Y, and Z.
And you should frame things really in the value, because people don't, who wants
Yeah.
to work with a firm that says we are a 50-year-old respected firm who blah, 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 blah. You're like,
Well,
not
listen,
me.
I've got to ask you, we are in an app world, aren't we? We're in a mobile world, but I imagine some listeners are feeling like, oh, app overload. I don't have time. I don't have the bandwidth to
Yeah.
learn a new one. So what advice would you give to them right now, or are thinking about, they're liking what you're saying, but they're thinking, really, the
Yeah.
client want another app?
Another app. Yeah. So the first thing I would say is there's apps and there's apps.
Okay.
And ask yourself, how long did it take you to learn your online banking app? I don't, it probably
It's
took you
quick.
about
Yeah.
a minute, didn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
And the reason is because there was really good design. So when something is designed very well and is very intuitive, um, it's easy for you to use and it's easy for your clients to use. And
Yeah.
so we don't find that we have a very long learning curve at all. We do spend time with the accountants and the bookkeepers who come on board um, to make sure that their data is whatever data they want to bring over is brought over, so that their client accounts are nice and healthy with the documents that they want their clients to see. But I think you have to ask yourself, what if you found some technology that was just super easy, easy to learn, easy to install, it was affordable, and it solved you headaches and all that wasted time with email. You're not hunting for documents. You've got transparency across teams. Clients are responding quickly to your requests instead of, ignoring them, or worse, texting you an unusable photo. I mean, like, what do you do with a photo of a document, right? Like, how much time are you wasting? So I get it. I totally, totally get it that there is a concern about an app overload. But if you can dump a bunch of things that aren't working for you, and you have one that really does work, and it delights your clients, it's a huge differentiator for you.
And it's a big competitive advantage, isn't it?
Huge. Huge. I think the CX 2.0 firms are going to dominate in 2021 and beyond because the word's going to get out. We're just about to cross 100,000 users. And so it's starting to take on a life of its own, where clients are now saying, we came to you because you use Liscio.
Yeah.
So this is really interesting. We predict that this is going to be more, it's just going to be bigger and bigger.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I had a stat recently, I think some research via Sage, that said that 41% of the world's population right now is under 25.
And are they going to stand for outdated, clunky things that they were created in the 90s when these people weren't even alive?
Because they live on their phones. This is the world that they recognize. And these are going to be your future employees as a CPA firm. They're going to be your future clients. And that's the way the world is going. So, Alison, this is terrific. It sounds like you're changing the world with Liscio, and you're super passionate about what you do.
Yeah,
Presumably,
it's been fun.
you work with professional firms internationally.
Yeah, we do. Right now so we have clients we have clients everywhere, actually. We do.
So if people want to have a conversation with you, find out about some of the great stuff you're doing, what's a good way for them to reach you?
I think just the website. Well, actually, we'll link if I can give you some links to put in the podcast, Rob.
Sure. Yeah.
Then, like, I'd love people to have that ebook, because it's the conversation guide that helps you uncover
We'll share the link to
any
that.
of the challenges. Yeah, I think that's a really good one, and our contact information. But it's really simple. The website's just liscio.me. So Liscio is LISCIO.
Okay.
And then
what will they
.me.
see when they go there?
All sorts of things. You can look at videos. You can if you wanted to set yourself up for a demo, you could do that. You could take a look at the different case studies, and there's all sorts of information there.
Yeah. Well, Alison, it's been great talking to you today. I want to finish with asking you to get your crystal ball out.
Yeah.
We've had a challenging year this year. Tougher times are to come. Loans that have been taken out are going to become repaid. Tax bills that have been deferred are going to become repayable. Double-digit recession, unemployment, everything else. What do you think is coming up in 2021? But more to the point, what excites you about what's coming up?
Yeah, so there's definitely all the challenges that I think you mentioned, Rob. But I just feel it in my bones that 2021 is going to be a time when we all pull together as humans.
Okay.
I just feel it. I feel like we're going to just understand the importance of truly supporting each other. We will have the vaccine. It's coming.
Okay.
New businesses are opening. I think it's just going to feel different when we get into 2021. I think it's just we're all going to come up and say, "Oh, okay, right, let's get on with it."
Yeah.
I actually am really excited to see where we take things. It's like it's our future, right? So, and human resiliency and kindness never fails to inspire me.
Yeah.
It's there. We just have to make sure we remind people that we're human and we're resilient and we're kind.
And we do have, as humans, the ability to endure adversity and to come back,
Mhm.
don't we?
Yeah, resiliency
Yeah.
is the key. And I think if anybody listening today thinks that they've done a poor job of surviving the year, the fact that you are here and you're listening to this now, pat yourselves on the back. It means you're resilient.
Yeah.
It means you are someone who wakes up every day and says, "Okay, what's going on today?
Yeah.
What can I do today?" Yeah.
Well, Alison Ball of Liscio.me, it's been so good to talk to you today. You've done an amazing reinvention of yourself since your Intuit days, and it's clear that you're so passionate
Yeah.
about where you're going right now. And God has a job for you to do, and you're doing that job, which is amazing. So thank you so much
Oh,
for your
thank
stories and
you,
your passion
Rob.
today.
Thank you, Rob. It's always really, really fun to come on your podcast.
You've been watching or listening to the Accounting Influencers podcast featuring hosts Rob Brown and Martin Bissett with key interviews, what's working in the accounting profession, and news from the accounting and fintech world that helps you do your jobs better. We go out to 144 countries, over 20,000 unique listeners with 100,000 downloads, and it is accredited for continued professional education and development. Thank you for tuning in.